Welcome back, Worksaholics from across the country. We're so excited to have so many real estate agents joining us from all over the North American continent now. I mean, we've got friends from Southern California and Seattle and New Jersey and New York and Pennsylvania all online today to have a conversation with Floyd Wickman and the Floyd Wickman organization. I mean, we did one session. We did one session already,
and I loved it.
And I really appreciate it. I think I really let you know what effect you had on my career early and how long that effect lasted and why this is such a privilege for us at Associate Works to partner with the Floyd Wickman organization and be able to bring some of this information to our group.
Thank you.
We want to thank you again.
It's my pleasure, believe me.
Well, you know, last time we were together, we talked a lot about some of the transformation stories that you guys have been able to achieve, some of the brokerage level relationships and what was able to happen for them, and some of the individual stories as well. Right. Today we want to get into a little bit of the nuts and bolts of really how that transformation takes place for an agent. Okay. You know, maybe somebody who's out there today that's maybe a 4 to 6 deal a year agent. Right. There's a lot of them. Right. And who maybe wants to become a 20 to 30 deal a year agent. Right. And I know the mark you've left on this industry is the 100 transaction, agent.
Well, we've got a lot of those, but just like what you said, if the agent that wants to get to 30 is as important to me as the agent that wants to get to 100.
Yeah. Well, first of all, do you feel like there really are transferable skills that we could impart upon, a single mom raising 3 kids who's got a real estate license, who maybe doesn't have a background in sales, or maybe an IT guy that was moved into the real estate business? Sometimes the real estate business is the island of misfit toys. There's a lot of folks that come from a lot of different places. What are is there really some transferable skills we can start talking to them about right now about what they need to gain?
Well, if there aren't transferable skills, then I've been doing something wrong for 30 some odd years and 350,000 graduates. Of course, right. So I'll start with that premise because I think it's important. Everyone is a candidate for improvement in skill if they come to us with an open mind. Somebody one time said the mind's like a parachute; it only works when it's open. But also, I think this is important. They have to have a desire to want to make a change. Yeah. And other than that, so at session 1, we bring, I call it a baseline, okay? I say to the brand new people that are non-productive, I say, you have to trust me enough to start at this point, like everybody else is. For the people that are up here production-wise, if they want to take the program, they have to come down and start at that base also. Because the concept of my training has 5 components. We spell it with SMART. Sometimes we refer to it as the Wickman SMART program, and it's an acronym, SMART. Okay. The S stands for the space training, and this is where transferable skills come in too. Okay, I won't give anybody anything complicated to do during that first week. Right. But space training, you come to me next week, I'll teach you what you wish you would have had last week. And guess what happens? It sinks in. Right. Next week, I'll give you what you wish you had had with the assignments I gave you last week, and you build from there. Right. So it's a building block. The M stands for mandatory activity. For example, there's assignments, and if you don't do them, 3 strikes, and you're out of the program.
That's a funny word in the real estate industry, mandatory.
Yes.
We as brokers have always had a hard time asserting that word into the industry.
Well, because we're so big on optional. It's optional for you to fail.
Right.
Okay. I don't like that. I care too much. If somebody paid me $1,000 or $20,000 or $1 million, if they pay me to change them, I'm going to do it. I'll stick my neck out, and I'll do what the rest of the world wouldn't dare do to turn that person around. If they're willing to do what I tell them to do. So that's why mandatory. I don't know how to change somebody by giving them that option.
Right.
Okay? The A stands for accountability. Each week, it's important that a leader knows the numbers. How many hours you spend, how many calls, how many contacts, how many of this, how many of that. Numbers take all the emotion out of it. Hey, how was your week? Pretty good. You know what that means? Nothing. Where do I critique pretty good? How do I improve on not too bad?
Yeah.
But if you say, I made this many contacts, I got this many prospects and this many appointments, now I got something I can improve on a little bit this week, a little bit next. That's the power of my program. And frankly, that's why so many trainers out there try to copy my program, is because that's the infallible way of changing. The R stands for role play. Now, nobody has to get in front of the class. Oh, no, I would never have a student. I would never have a student. But they role play one-on-one, or they'll role play 3. I have 5 different role play techniques that I put them through during the program, and the and the T stands for teamwork. You know, we don't have it all together, but together we got it all. And if there's 12 people sitting next to me and we all want to beat the other team, our production all goes up.
So if I was just starting off in my real estate career, what would you see as the skill, the skill that I know that I need to get either from you as a trainer or to instill in myself moving into the real estate industry?
I think they don't understand the why of a technique. You know, somebody that knows what to do will always have a job. Somebody knows why it's done that way will always be the boss. You with me? So I think I have to make that person their own boss by not just showing them what to do, but why. I use the concept fair trade. When that really sinks in, what really sinks in what fair trade means. You know, in class I'll use that thing where who's got 50 cents for $1, right? I'm trying to show somebody that analogy, that concept is how you get appointments when you want to. In other words, if you give me 50 cents and I give you $1, you are better off than before we talked. Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, if I say give me $1 and I'll give you $1, well, you know, that's not going to go anywhere. You know, who wants to participate? Or if I say give me $1, I'll give you 50 cents, right? That isn't going to work either. But when you understand that what an agent knows and how they can advise them, the newest agent. I mean, just with license training and continuing ed and company training and what Associate Works puts out there, the newest agent knows more than that seller does.
Yeah.
And they know something that seller doesn't know, that if the seller knew that, they would be able to make a smarter decision. So if somebody's thinking of selling, and I'm saying, why don't I stop by, I'll look at your house, I'll give you an estimate of timing. That way you'll know when to start. Well, it wouldn't make sense for a seller to say no.
Right.
The only way it could not work is if I'm an agent, I don't understand it enough where it's got to not feel right if somebody says no. So when you say I'll do a market analysis for you or give you tips on timing or whatever it is, it's got to be the $1, and all they have to give you is the time and attention.
Less than 50 cents.
Less.
Just the time and attention.
Exactly.
And I'll give you something that's worth more than
$1 they're going to get in return. Absolutely.
Yep. Remember, you used to, when I was in the program, it was, if I could, would you? There was a sentiment there. If I could provide this for you, would you be willing to sit down with me for a few minutes? And I could tell you, if I used that once, it was 100,000 times in my career. You
can't go through a whole week without using it a couple dozen times. I mean, if you're productive.
If you're a worker, right?
You know, put-offs are normal.
Objections or
stalls or whatever you want to call them, hesitations, that's normal. So you have to be able to, and by the way, I didn't invent that technique. That's way back when, I think J. Douglas Edwards used to call it the sharp angle close.
Okay.
If I could prove to you that I could do this, would you talk with me? Well, who could say no to it unless I don't say it? I don't say it right. or I don't sound like I mean it.
You don't have some conviction behind your voice.
Right. If I don't have conviction, I'm going to say, well, what if I could? I mean, if I could, would you, that ain't going to get it. But if I could prove to you, I could put more money in your pocket than you could, Mr. For Sale by Owner, would you spend a little bit of time with me?
Right.
That's fair trade. That's the skill.
In the expired market, I would 7:30 to 9:30 almost every morning in my real estate career pick up the phone and call the expireds.
Yeah.
And it was, if I could sell your home by August 30th
Right.
for the price that you're asking, would you
Right.
at least want me to come over and sit down with you and talk to you?
Right.
And that was right out of the Floyd Wickman handbook, right from back in the day. When I was, and I, a lot of people don't know, I closed over 3,500 homes in 27 years. I mean,
I knew you were a big producer.
working pretty hard there for a little while.
And I'm proud to say you were Wickmanized. I have to tell you.
And if I wasn't Wickmanized, I probably wouldn't have been able to do it, right? So, we're talking about agents that are at that point. They're at that point in their career where they're making a decision to either start, or maybe some of them, because of the time that we've been through over the last 4 or 5 years, to restart their career. If there were one curriculum or one method that you would want to assert into their decision making, is there one thing, you had talked about in the previous session, the formula? What is that method? What is that?
Well, okay, and that's the formula of each week you work on bringing in a saleable listing first, separate the lookers from the buyers, and sell in-house inventory. That's the highest return on anybody's time investment.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
Take listings. I mean, listings, first of all, it takes at least 30% less actual time to earn this commission from a listing sold than it did making a sale. Same commission, but it's at least 30% less actual time spent. And nowadays, with buyers, the way they're, and lenders and all of this, it's a lot more. So it's quicker money. By the same token, and I love this, if you're a lister and you have an inventory level, determines income level.
Yeah.
Always, that's a formula.
What do you think the perfect curriculum or the perfect method is to share with them while they're trying to make a decision if they're going to jump in with both feet right now?
Right. Well, there is a distinction between getting started and restarted. The truth of the matter is, it's harder to get restarted for many people because of the ego that they've built being experienced.
Yeah.
Because you know what you have to do to be successful? You got to come down to the starting gate again. And that's pretty hard for some experienced agents. But and with new people, it's a matter of trust. So if there's anything that they have to do, is they have to either set aside the ego or have a talk with themselves about what's the worst going to happen if I make a call, if I knock on a door.
So if you were to begin working with an agent, first day out of the slot, what's the thing that you'd like to do with an agent to kind of begin the working process?
Right. Well, okay. I'd have to know what they want to accomplish. Okay. What is their goal? Okay. And of course, let's just assume that there's some things they can do. They're not one of these very frightened people.
Right.
Okay. I want to know what their goal is, because in our business, a goal translates down to activity. That's a great thing with what we do. Okay? You can't control the end result, but you can control the activity. And you and I can take any person and say, what do you want to earn? Okay, well, let's take a pencil to it and get it down. If you just made 3 contacts with a prospect every day, 5 days a week, you'd hit that goal. And with some people, it's 10 a day for 6 days, and everybody's got different. But I would want to know what their goal is, so I know the numbers, and then you can direct them.
Yeah. Is time management a key ingredient for your training and in managing or helping an agent self-manage?
Oh yeah. I require every student during those weeks to maintain a smart week. Now, smart week means this, okay? And then I'll tell you why it's going to be important. You look at 7 days in advance. I give you little calendars. 7 days in advance. If you want to put it on your smartphone, go ahead, but you got to use the sheet so I can glance at it, okay?
Yeah.
And you block out all your activity. Anything you got pre-planned for the week. Calling time, taking the kids to softball, to basketball, whatever, soccer, whatever they do.
Put it all down.
You block it out. Don't just jot in, you're going to do this at block. When is the start, when is the end? Block it out. After you block it out, then I give everybody, and this is worth the price of the course. I give everybody 3 highlight markers, okay? And everything that's has anything to do with talking to buyers or sellers or prospects. Okay, I don't care if it's a closing or just making a call or knocking on a door. You highlight in green. Mm-hmm. Any business things you have to do, real estate things you have to do, order the postcards, all
post-closing,
yeah,
contract negotiation.
Highlight in yellow.
Okay.
And anything that's personal, highlight in pink, and leave a lot of white space. That's your flex time. Mm-hmm. Okay. You stay within the confines of your blockout, and of course, in our society, yellow represents caution. Green represents money.
Yeah. And
in business, when your yellows are outweighing your greens, you're in the wrong business.
Yeah.
This is a contact sport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's definitely watching realtors for the last 20 some odd years. It seems like they spend a whole lot of time in the yellow sector, getting ready to get ready,
yes,
managing transactions that they already have,
right,
and not nearly as much time in the green sector, relationship building, new prospects.
Absolutely. I'm telling you, is there so many things that postcards could do.
Yeah.
That agents spend time doing. So many things. Some of the top producers are constantly hitting expires with postcards and then an occasional phone call. Mm-hmm. And as long as I'm talking about it, I mean there's a lot of great postcard companies out there. I'll tell you one that I really love the results, if you don't mind.
No, sure. I love it.
I have no ownership in that company whatsoever, but it's called Prospects Plus.
I've heard of them, worked with them myself.
I'm telling you, man, these guys, their postcard campaigns, especially for expireds now, they get the best results I've seen.
Well, I think that a lot of folks that are listening in probably think that we're advocates of kind of one way to skin a cat, kind of the cold call cowboy door knocker attitude. And I'm glad that you say that, because not everybody watching is necessarily that temperament. Right,
exactly. See, it's multiple contact, okay?
Yeah.
Now, but the phone always has to be part of it. Yeah. Either in the beginning, during the middle, or at the, okay? Yeah. Now, but to just use the phone without the other today, and social media. I mean, you got to stay in touch with these people, but you can't bet your future just on social media. I mean, everybody's saying that, and yet there are people. I do my annual Master Sales Society forums, right? Mm-hmm. So we put the top producers up, and everybody has heard this, but I just want to say, they get up there and we talk about how much time do you spend with your social media, how much time do you spend with your, so everybody uses social media. But the person that spends half their day just doing social media, they ain't making as much money.
Right.
And in many cases, they're hardly making any. So, yeah, it isn't just this, and it isn't just knocking on doors, okay? That's part of the game. It's all that other stuff.
We had a farming agent sent out, 2,500 postcards a month or whatever it was. Right. And what I witnessed was, without the skills, the techniques, and the dialogue, the call was coming in the middle. In other words, they did the prospecting with their postcards like they should, and like a lot of agents will.
Right.
But they didn't necessarily obtain the skill set to convert the inbound call to an appointment because they didn't understand sales.
Yeah. So after a while, real estate's not for me, and this social media isn't working like I thought it was going to work.
You can't convert an appointment, and you're going out of the business anyway, right?
Yes. Skill comes, voice to voice, or it's like internet leads. What's the objective with an internet lead? It's get voice to voice. That's the only objective.
Right.
Not here. If you ever don't want to talk to somebody, keep sending them stuff.
Yeah.
You won't have to bother ever talking to them. You with me?
Yes, sir.
But if you're going to have a drip campaign, everybody's familiar with that term, make sure that in the PS is the hook.
Let's get the phone
Whatever it
ring.
is. By the way, I've got one in mind that might be perfect for you. Give me a call. Or you know, if you're interested in taking a look at financial risk analysis, give me a call. Or
There's a listing I know of that's coming on the market next week.
give me a call.
Right.
Exactly. And it's got to be in a PS.
Yeah.
I mean, I see some of this drip campaign. These people, the
200
prospect's going to have to, they're going to have to take the day off just to read the darn thing, and they're going to not know what's the point.
No reason to call.
Yeah.
So the skills, even if you don't intend to become the next cold call cowboy, even if you don't intend to be the door knocking expert,
Right.
maybe you still need to gain some
The skills.
dialogue and skills to convert the appointment. You know.
Oh boy. Yeah, and that's fine with me. You know.
Have you ever met a real estate agent you just can't help?
Yes, of course.
What do you think it is? If you were, you know,
Well, there's two kinds. Okay, there's one type that they really have to work on themselves.
yeah,
Okay, the look, the
professionalism.
shine the shoes, get a manicure. I can't speak for the women, but I'm saying that you know, they're not willing to do that. But then there's the other, and that's analytical Al.
Yeah.
Okay, that person sits in class just to get all the content they need for that hate letter they're going to send you at the end of all the things you should do.
Yeah.
And usually they're one of the low producers in the company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So attitude.
there's a couple people that you can't do. But if I could, and that's why I spend time talking about this at session one, getting that. Let's get to the baseline.
Base, yeah.
Okay.
When you first started in the residential real estate business, what do you feel like it was that turned it around for you?
Well, it took 11 and a half months to turn it around. And what turned it around is I met a broker that took away the option. As a matter of fact, you know, he's sort of the left Attila the Hun, to give you an idea of what his personality was like.
Mm-hmm.
But he made me learn to sell. He just made me spend $1,100 back in that day to go to a sales training class and learn how to sell. I was willing to work.
Yeah.
You know, so and that's why I devote my life to teaching people how to sell.
Yeah.
Because if you could sell anything, you could sell anything.
Was it Dale Carnegie by chance?
No.
Oh, no?
No, but I did take that,
Yeah.
took that training program way back when. No, it was Sales Training Institute.
Oh, is that
It
right?
was now defunct, cost $1,100 back in the day.
So just not walking into the real estate career as with a realtor's hat on, but walking into each transaction with a salesperson's hat on.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
It's a big distinction for a lot of folks out there. They don't
Yes.
necessarily see the difference between
Right.
a salesperson and a real estate person
Right.
necessarily.
And you know what I love? I love when people say, what we like about you, Floyd, is you don't push. You know, if you don't know how to sell, you got to push.
Right.
But if you really know how to sell, you're leading.
Yeah.
And leading is just a matter of doing the right thing at the right time, the right way.
Right. So, you know, there's a lot of trainers out there that focus on either selling scripts or giving scripts and really pound this concept of scripts.
Yes.
And my experience with your organization has been it's more framed in dialogues or particular agendas or things. Can you kind of explain your perspective on that? Or
Yeah, I think so. Well, first of all, probably a man by the name of Jerry Bresser was the first one to really bring scripts into the real estate industry. Okay, and I knew of Jerry, and I respect that. My concept on dialogue is the ingredients. Certainly, you need the words, but there was a study done about how important are the words in persuasion. And it was 55%, okay, is voice inflection, 38% face and body, and only 7% the actual words you use.
Right.
Words are important. But to me, dialogue is certain words, okay, whatever words suit you. Second part is the delivery, the face and the voice, okay, body language. And the third part is, well, the Wickman method of selling. And the Wickman method of selling has several components. Everything you ever hear from me, you'll recognize as one of those components. For example, it's fear of loss. Okay. All my techniques have an element of loss, because fear of loss is a greater motivator than opportunity to gain. You want somebody to want something, talk benefit. If you want them to act, and act now. Talk about what they'll lose if they don't. Okay. Secondly, facts with emotional words. Okay. The only problem some agents have is they're all fact, fact, fact. Right. Or they're all emotion, emotion, emotion. You see, 90% of the time we're dealing with a couple. And anybody that's ever been married knows opposites attract, okay? One of them is an analytical, might be analytical L or Ella. The other is an emotional, might be emotional L or Ella. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't matter. We don't have to study who's who. Just make sure we state facts with emotional words. That way we're selling two styles simultaneously. Right. Okay. The third element of I say number everything. In other words, there's 5 things I'd like to do tonight. There's 3 things every owner should know as they embark on selling their own home. There's why the numbers? Because the analytical will see it as complete. The emotional will be less confused, so you'll get more decisions. Okay. Then we have questions. You know, you shouldn't talk more than a couple minutes without asking a question. You know what I mean? Okay, because questions cause participation, don't they?
Yes, sir.
How do you feel about that? Well, anyhow, I can go on and on and on and on, but that's how you sell. And then, of course, visuals. Right. Never tell them something, you can show them. So those are the Wickman ingredients of dialogue selling.
Okay. So when you're approaching a for sale by owner versus approaching an expired, and a trainer gives me 6 lines to say in a script, right, and it's you say these lines to each for sale owner, you say these lines to every expired. I mean, where do you see the world when you approach a for sale by owner or an expired versus a script specifically?
Well, first of all, I give my students the words. Okay, it's not always printed out. But every student gets audios of everything that I teach them. Anyhow, right. Okay, but you have to be in class to get those. Mm-hmm. But you know, what I'm trying to say is, like for example, for a for sale by owner. Okay, if I were to say, you know, I'm not necessarily calling to list your home. You know, I'm not even sure if I could sell it, but let me ask you, if I could prove to you that I could actually net you more money than you can net yourself, would you be willing to talk with me a little bit? Well, that had all of the elements built right in there, you see? Right. Okay. Now, a script that has those elements is wonderful, you know? Right. So people learn the Wickman way of saying it. Yeah. But I tell them, use whatever words you're comfortable with. Yeah.
Get comfortable in your own skin first, yeah. Right?
I always remember I was trying to work into a higher priced area one time years ago, and I'm trying to be somebody I'm not, right? Well, you know, I have a 9th grade education, and I'd sit there and I'd try indubitably, and I'd try and use words I didn't even know what it meant. I was trying to impress these people, right? Couldn't get any business out of them, you know. So it's got to be the words that
you got to get comfortable in your own skin, right?
You got it.
So do you think real estate agents that are out there typically make things too complicated? Is there a flavor of that you see over and over and over, where they're just complicating things a little bit more than they have to?
Yeah. I mean, every top producer in every company in North America, every top producer, if anybody says, what do you think I should do to increase my production, they would all say one way or the other, make more contacts. Right. That's pretty simple.
Okay, we're done here, right?
Yeah.
Make more
Start your
content.
social media. No,
Yeah.
take 19 ways to finance a home seminar.
Right.
No,
They're not going to get into all that.
no, this is all important to have.
Yeah.
But if there was one thing, make more contacts.
So if I'm making more contacts and I'm out in the field, if I'm in Florida, Arizona, Nevada, most of New Jersey, and certainly Georgia, and so many states across the country,
Right.
you know, I've got to make a decision how, or in some cases if, I want to approach families that are facing foreclosure, notice of defaults, list pendants, notifications, and if that prospect were part of my decision to go after that sector of the business to list short sales, you know, how do you feel about approaching those families maybe a little differently than you would approach a typical for sale by owner or an expired with equity?
Well, I think first of all you have to know what their options are. So there's a different degree of knowledge
Yeah.
that an agent has. I think the process of contacting them doesn't change. You know, there has to be a conversation, maybe a mail piece, and what are you really doing? You want to sit down and see if there's some way you can help them.
Yeah.
Well, that's the same with everybody, for sale by owner, expired. You know, if there's any difference at all, you know, it's easier to come up with pricing if you can help somebody bail out. You know, that's upside down, underwater. But other than that, the processes don't change. I'd like to see people really look at those people like, you know, I'd really like to help them. I'd like them to be a little more peaceful.
Yeah.
You know, which has always been my style with students or
The top salespeople that I've ever come across, from my relationship with you or Zig, or watching even the top tier salespeople in any community that we serve, they're so much more empathetic, and they're so much more nurturing, and they're so much more sincere than what the lower producers perceive the top producers to be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They I don't know.
You know what? I think you're absolutely right. Now, you'll see more confidence, maybe a more direct tone of voice, and all of this other stuff. But don't let that fool you.
Yeah.
They're there to help those people,
Yeah.
and everybody has a different way of doing it. I mean, you know, nothing's always, but I agree with you. The majority of top producers, it's about the people, and they want to help the people, and they're just doing it smart. You know, one of my graduates is, you know, this guy's doing 300 transactions a year, for crying out loud, and just the sweetest, nicest guy in the world. You know?
Yeah.
So.
Especially in the short sale market, I think you've got to have a real degree of empathy in the way that you approach someone who's 9, 10, 12 months behind on the mortgage payment and potentially facing losing their home. So we've really had to deal with that a lot in Florida.
Yeah.
So if I were to drop you off in a new city, I just pick you up and put you in Kansas City or Jacksonville, Florida, first day in the real estate business, what do you feel like the number one thing you'd wake up at that morning and want to accomplish?
Find my telephone. And start making contacts.
Yeah. So who do you think you'd be contacting, though? Just, I mean, let's break it down to 101 from a prioritization standpoint. Is it, you know, who are you calling that morning? Your first day in a new city, like your friend who moved from New York to Georgia, who you told me about in the first session.
Well, his whole thing there was a lot of expireds.
Yeah.
So he focused his energies on expireds and for sale by owners.
Yeah.
That's all he did, because he knew that the law of average. By the way, he also knew that they would be tougher to work with.
Yeah.
But he knew he was Wickman trained, so it wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
So, in other words, it depends on, you know, different market conditions. Like for sale by owners, in certain markets are selling their houses by themselves left and right. In certain markets, there aren't as many expireds. So you have to go where the cheese is, so to speak. You know.
Yeah. Okay. So would you, your friend, one of your students transferred from New York to a new city in Georgia and started fresh. If we use that analogy, you're starting anew fresh. Would you be door knocking? Would you be cold calling? Or would you be mailing? What would be, if you had to pick, let's say one?
Just one?
Yeah.
if it was just one, I would telephone call.
Yeah.
If it was just one, because it's quicker. But I'd create a campaign of all three. If I could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It's really good for them to hear.
Especially today, with the fear of the do not call and the cold call and all this other stuff, and there's still people doing it. They're working clean lists, and some of them are even rationalizing it. I teach people how to cold call, but I don't tell them to cold call. You with me?
Right.
Because some people are going to. But the concept of making the contact and getting a lead and going, it's all the same.
Yeah.
I'd do all three.
Yeah. So, Mr. Wickman, on the record, how do you feel about this new world order of the do not call list and the anxiety that agents and maybe even brokers feel about encouraging their troops to go out and cold call in 2013 and beyond?
Well, I would never tell somebody to do anything illegal.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Cold call, yeah. If it's a clean list and it's their legal calls, yeah.
Yeah.
But I would never teach somebody to be illegal.
Yeah.
Because that is what it is. Now I realize there's ways to rationalize it. Well, just call like you're making a survey.
Yeah.
Call like you're just checking, or call like you have a buyer that asked you to call. I mean, okay, if it's honest, I don't know, but it wouldn't be my style. Now, you got to remember, I'm the guy that brought cold calling into the real estate industry.
Yeah.
You with me?
Yeah.
Back when I started, the only way anybody ever thought to sell real estate is knock on doors and hand out cookbooks. You with me?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's a guy that practically invented cold calling, is saying that I would never teach somebody to do something illegal. But if they, for example, can get some help finding the clean, then that's what I'd have them call, and I'd have them use a specific person approach, which maybe we can talk about some later show.
In the advent of the do not call list, and with respect to your sincerity about the law, it's a real law, and it's a real scary law for some of our real estate brokers.
Yeah.
Well, what we've been finding is that some of the top tier real estate agents that we've been able to meet have been using social media as a first point of contact for the expired and for sale by owner market sector to get either the permission-based contact going, or to even just find and make an initial contact with that prospect rather than the phone. And it doesn't work every time, obviously, but we've had some great statistics on finding some people who have unlisted numbers, finding some higher-end executives that don't have a number that's easy to reach them, or even in this world where people have cell phones, they don't list them in the MLS, or a Red X data doesn't have the right number. Going to social media might be an answer for a lot of our realtors to even find the person.
Yeah, let me verify that. Okay, we have there's 80 agents that we track every week, and we've been doing it for 3 years. Okay, and this is very interesting. Okay, their average per person production average is 88 transactions a year.
Okay.
And collectively, they hit 114% of their annual goal. All right? And Facebook is right up there with the top source of leads.
Wow.
So absolutely it's viable. And if you're using that as a way to just generalize an area you normally cold call, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But you better know how to use the phone at one time or another. You better know how to handle that appointment.
Because you got to get a call to action to get them to call, or you can't close them for an appointment.
Exactly.
Well,
and in my class, I have people make a lot of calls, but not cold calls.
No.
And not for sale by owner, and not expires.
I
teach them how to do it.
Warm relationship calls.
Yeah.
Get them moving.
Yeah.
Well, this was the nuts and bolts session. I'm really glad we did it this way, and I think that there's some real meat in that conversation for these agents, and I couldn't thank you enough.
Well, it's my pleasure. And if this was the nuts and bolts, there's going to be, wait till you see the next one. If
That's
we do it
right.
again.
We're going to do another one, right? But we want to thank you guys for being online and join us for the next session. Hopefully we'll do a few more of these with Mr. Wickman and the Floyd Wickman organization. And listen, I really feel strongly about this. What we do at Associate Works is a turnkey distance learning solution to implement some key strategies in your brokerages. What the Floyd Wickman organization is able to do for you, and specifically the Floyd Wickman program, and the data supports it for years and years in good markets and in bad, bringing in a Floyd Wickman trainer live into your office to spend space train week after week with your agents. It's inarguable. It's the most effective return on investment that you're going to have in your brokerage, and you know, to see some of those agents that are coming from the bottom half moving to a one listing a week or one unit a week kind of a level is just really awesome to bring into your brokerage. So we want to encourage you, our Works membership brokers, to reach out to the Floyd Wickman organization and schedule a live training in your office. And let's do some cool things together over the next few years. I want to thank you so
Russ.
much. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.